Finally, Friday. I can't wait to take my Zyn with a whole can of Red Bull to get ready for work. I don't even need breakfast because Monster Energy got me covered. It really gets the heart pumping. Seriously, I can already feel the burn and I didn't even go to the gym yet. After grinding all day on the Excel spreadsheets, I'm ready for my lunch. 4 Loko and hot Cheetos. Of course, I also have half of the Chick-fil-A menu for the gains. Those McDonald's suckers, they're eating their way towards cardiac arrest. After my nutritious 5,000 calorie meal, I grab myself some of that Panera lemonade to hit a new PR. Of course, I can't forget the pre-workout. After nearly tearing my meniscus, biceps, triceps, and spleen during my PR deadlift, I finally get to go home and spoil myself with some fried chicken I prepared. I'm going to rewatch The Office for the 12th time while playing some Subway Surfers and gooning to some quality yandere goth mommy roleplay ASMRs. Oops, I almost forgot to take my ADHD meds. I kind of got addicted to them, but they say it's part of the treatment. My life could not get any better. The weekend will also be amazing. There's a double XP event in Apex and League of Legends just got updated. Gotta get those event loot drops. What if I get the legendary Teemo Goon skin? Or the drumsticks? We're gonna grind all night. Literally, I think if I fall asleep my heart will stop beating and the sheer amount of caffeine in my veins is enough to turn the microplastics in my body into living organisms. I'm an insomniac anyway, so I wouldn't have gotten a good night's rest either way. Well, it's late night, so I might as well scroll through Instagram and TikTok until I pass out. I know I was supposed to go to this barbecue, but I'd much rather support my boys. Besides, it could be so much worse. I'm glad that I'm not some junkie on the streets looking for his next hit. That would be terrible. This is all there is to life, and it can't get any better than this. If this was your morning routine, then you will cease to exist in 3 to 4 business days. But you could probably relate to at least one of the things I mentioned, because everything is trying to get you addicted now. And by everything, I mean literally everything. From games, food, drinks, TV shows, your phone, your job even, and the CIA. Welcome Gen Z to the world of addictions. Why Gen Z specifically? Because it didn't used to be this bad. For example, video games used to be a product that you would be able to finish, or they would be party games to play with your friends. Of course these games still exist, but now, super popular games aren't made to necessarily end. They want to keep you playing until the company goes bankrupt or the world collapses, because they figured out if you keep playing, you're more likely to buy battle passes, cosmetics, and loot boxes. Or how streaming sites have embraced binge culture, so you consume large amounts of content all at once. In fact, designers have said that the #1 goal of Netflix is to keep your attention, or should I say, retention. The next episode automatically playing 10 seconds after the previous one has ended. That change was meant to increase the time users spend on Netflix, and it worked. Social media sites now use gambling methods, as do almost all corporations of the 21st century, to keep you addicted for all of your attention. That's actually how short-form videos came to dominate everything. They have an element of gambling to them, where not all videos are exactly what you were looking for, but when they hit it big. The algorithms also choose the videos for you, so because you don't decide when your screen time session ends, it'll keep you hooked on these stupid videos for much longer. The game is rigged against you. The best customers are the ones that never quit. And if you have yourselves an addict, you got yourself a forever customer, since most people don't have the willpower or determination to break out of an addiction. The business practices of a bygone age was much different, because people were less lonely and they usually had a deeper meaning to their lives, so the same strategies wouldn't have been as useful as they are today, although they would still be more effective due to intense research and funding. We live in an age of loneliness and meaninglessness, so many people turn to nihilism and hedonism, a la Rick and Morty, to fill the voids in their hearts, and almost every major corporation has taken advantage of it. Money can't buy happiness, but you can buy a chance for happiness. Here's another terrible example: dating apps. They have essentially turned dating into a pay-to-win, and they want to keep you lonely because if you keep coming back, you'll buy more Tinder Gold, or whatever. You might think that just because it's possible and easy to get addicted to these things, that doesn't mean they were meant to get you addicted. Heck, you can even get addicted to cucumbers if you try hard enough. Oh sweet summer child, let me tell you about dark design, or intentionally addictive design choices hidden in most products now. In gaming, this design is very obvious, with loot boxes that have a random chance of giving you a valuable item, so it's just gambling in essence, and gambling can lead to addiction very quickly, because of the huge dopamine hits when you win, and get this, gamblers also get a dopamine hit on a near win. So a casino could metaphorically edge you for all of your money, making you convinced you're gonna win the next round, but it never happens. But loot boxes aren't the only addictive elements in modern gaming. Things like daily rewards, double XP weekends, and challenges you can complete for in-game skins and items, they all give you an incentive to play the game every day and make it a part of your life. They are reinforcing habits that are associated with you playing the game, because the more time you'll spend playing a game, the more likely you are to spend money on it, and most big game companies know this. With also things like the Battle Pass bringing back subscription gaming in a sense, with the only caveat being that you can technically play the game for free, but even this is a tactic used by dealers of illicit substances to get you hooked. The first hit is free, for the next one you'll have to pay, and so many companies are now using this classic method to get people addicted to their product and make themselves rich. Pretty much all entertainment tries to get you hooked on it, and you probably already are. As you might have noticed, they started trying to get you hooked on caffeine and lots of sugars as well. Even lemonade is not safe anymore. They want you to be reliant on coffee to wake you up in the morning. It's a giant industry that only exists because our current lifestyles are incompatible with our caveman brains. We were not meant to work so many consecutive hours in a row. Caffeine just enables unhealthy working hours. And fun fact, caffeine doesn't actually give you energy, it just inhibits your tiredness receptors, so to speak, so you can't feel getting tired. This is why the infamous caffeine crash happens as well. And speaking of caveman brains, we are not made for these technological superstimuli or hyperstimuli. A supernormal stimuli is a stimulus that can't be found in nature, and it puts the brain systems for rewards, i.e. dopamine, into overdrive, to the point of being harmful to your well-being. These superstimuli are everywhere now, because of the internet, with corn being a very easy and obvious example. We've had access to the internet and smartphones since we could think. Gen Z and the millennials are like patient zero for tech addiction. So we're all hooked on something, but what if you want to quit? The big problem with quitting is, you'll be the odd one out. Most people partake in vices like copious amounts of caffeine and alcohol every day. In fact, there are whole social events that form around them. You meet people by getting a coffee with them, or you mingle at a bar. Addictions have major social elements attached to them, and in some countries, addictions are practically institutionalized. Try socializing in the Balkans without drinking or gambling. I dare you. But for real, there's not much to do there except for drink and gamble. Same here in the soon-to-be member of the Balkans, Germany. The legal age to drink is 14 under the supervision of your parents. And there are whole events like the Oktoberfest that are just about drinking. If you are completely sober in Germany, it is harder to find things to do. Of course you can always drink in moderation, but how many people do you know who are actually able to do that? Instead, they just name it as an excuse to normalize drinking. I know that personally. I get easily addicted to things. That's why I stay away from alcohol and gambling. But it is pretty annoying to explain to people why I don't drink at most social events. And it's awkward as well. If you're the only one sober at a party where everyone is drunk, you can see just how annoying drunk people can really be. And you can't exactly have any meaningful conversations either. The point of alcohol is to trick your body to think that it's the end, after all, thus turning your brain off and making all of the bad thoughts go away. But alcohol isn't just the only social addiction. If you want to get rid of your social media and technological addictions, it's borderline impossible, because you become an absolute outsider. People love to send memes to each other. It's a new way to communicate. It would be a huge hassle if you have to find new friends that are also trying to quit social media and the endless entertainment device altogether, and I don't think this is reasonable to expect out of most people. If you want to fit in, you gotta partake in some addictive behaviors. That's just how it is right now, but at least you can learn how to do it in moderation, or make compromises. I know moderation is difficult, but it's theoretically possible. For example, yes, I will go to this party, and I will be having a single drink, no more. Because if I get home and my blood alcohol level snitches on me through the breathalyzer, my mom will delete my Red Dead Redemption 2 save file, and I'll have to do Coulter all over again. No matter how you put it, addictions have become a major part of our life now, and we have to go up against billion-dollar marketing and bioengineering just to be fully content. Yippee! You need to have a life outside of the addiction to truly quit it, but this is very difficult with things such as technological addictions, where we have become reliant on technology to the point of not being able to live a normal, comfortable life without it. Unless you're an off-grid farmer, but most people aren't. Addictions, in essence, are just unhealthy coping mechanisms. We use them to get through the struggles of everyday life, which has grown so complex to the point of being comical. Come on, can you really exercise, socialize, work, meditate, eat healthy, relax, and do your daily chores in a day? A lot of people have to sacrifice some of these things now, especially if you already have mental illnesses like ADHD and autism. That's not all. Life has started to give us complex PTSD. Now what does this mean? PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, used to be another term for shell shock, a condition that soldiers suffered after the World Wars. It was thought the blast waves from the shells could have negative effects on the brain that resulted in PTSD. Turns out, you can get it just by participating in war, and now, with our newest form of PTSD, you can get it from regular everyday life. Well, technically it requires traumatic life experiences, but come on, life in itself is traumatic. You almost never see people who had zero adverse childhood experiences. The world is just brutal in that way, so I would consider it as everyday life. Most people are just varying degrees of mentally ill or traumatized, but only the worst cases get detected. People who are mentally ill and traumatized tend to self-medicate a lot, and self-medication easily leads to addiction due to overusage. But sometimes, the doctors will actually prescribe you medications such as SSRIs, for example, that will make you dependent on them, but it's worth it because they cure a condition that is worse than the side effects. I understand that some people really are so mentally unwell that they need to be reliant on a certain medication to function, but I can't help but feel like this is a Victorian-era solution. We can resuscitate a person back to life, perform actual medical miracles, but we can't make the sad thoughts go away without medications that have side effects like having a limp willy, super sweat, and cotton tongue. I personally believe that you should try every other alternative before opting for administered substances. I know that it's much quicker than finding the solutions to your problems, and easier, but I think it'll screw you over in the long term. Also, what are you going to do if the medication isn't available? It's very expensive most of the time, and also on high demand because of the rise in mental illness. Having healthy coping mechanisms would sure come in handy then. You just have to put the work in to achieve them, which is easier said than done. Meditation would definitely be a good start, but it is harder than medication. Now, I know that back in the 1800s, they literally sold coke gum and Walter White cough syrup, but at least they didn't actively know these substances were addictive, and they were less hidden than most modern addictions. Modern addictions hide themselves behind caffeine and sugar, or they hide behind your feelings. They give you the illusion of choice. No one is forcing you to play League of Legends for 8 hours a day or watch YouTube videos all day. You're doing this to yourself, right? You are not immune to propaganda, and you're especially not immune towards these business practices that make billions. Your addictions are the result of malicious algorithms and human biohacking, so it's not all your fault. But you sadly have to take your actions under these addictions in your own hands. In the end, you only have control over your own actions. So, if we keep getting caffeine, sugar, which is also extremely addictive, and TikTok shoved in our face, we need to deal with them accordingly, by not even giving them an ounce of our precious attention. Companies will do everything to get and keep your attention, even in the workplace. Some companies have even started to offer 3 meals a day, sleeping areas, gaming rooms, and more, so you'll practically start living in the office and become reliant on the job. Google is famous for doing this, and they already overwork their workers naturally, but the workers themselves also usually start to overwork themselves, because if you practically live in your job, you never quit. And just like the CIA never quit psychological operations. Now, am I suggesting that the CIA has something to do with this shift in focus, where addictions used to be frowned upon, but now they're considered everyday normal coping mechanisms? I will not confirm nor deny that statement. The Psychological Operations Division is still very active. It always has been. So would it be so crazy to suggest that the government occasionally lends a helping hand to all of these corporations that keep you addicted? Because it gives them more control and bargaining power over their own people. I wouldn't say they are the sole perpetrators behind this, but to say they had no hand in this is frankly nonsense in my opinion. Coca-Cola is only meant to be sweet for a short time in your mouth, so you'll be satisfied less and keep drinking more. Modern food is filled with so many processed ingredients, sugars, salts, and artificial sweeteners that will keep you always wanting more. Is capitalism really worth it at this point if this is the penultimate result? But that's besides the point. Let's get back to understanding the tactics they use to keep us addicted. Fun fact, the delay of a stimulus can actually increase the urge, thus making an addiction stronger. This is also why quitting cold turkey doesn't really work for our modern vices, because we have super easy access to them and no replacement. So we all eventually break or run out of willpower and strengthen our addiction. Our vices and addictions are more accessible than ever now. If you were addicted to ciggies back in the day, you at the very least had to go to the store and buy them. And they're pretty expensive now, So getting ciggies isn't as simple as, I don't know, reaching into your pocket to pull out a device with every herb you could possibly think of smoking, right at your fingertips. It takes less than a second to unlock your phone and engage in your social media cravings or even pornography. Pornography is especially problematic because it is a well-known superstimuli that can basically override your entire brain. You can beef your jerky anytime, no matter if you're happy, horny, sad, or corny. Pretty much endless dopamine right at your fingertips. How could we not realize that this is bad for us? This actually reminds me of the mouse utopia experiment, where mice were given everything they needed to thrive, and it led to the mice eventually turning it into a dystopia. We are terrible at regulating our dopamine intake. We were never supposed to do that in the first place. We still have the feeble minds of the same people that lived in caves thousands of years ago. So now our feeble caveman brains have to deal with an incomprehensible amount of stimulation. We used to take walks, sharpen our tools, and clean our cloths, but now we look at live leak videos of Chinese steel factory workers getting eaten by the 1,000 years of luck dragon. And all of that just to keep your attention. To keep you entertained like a Roman emperor. Attention is the new economy. We live in an attention economy, where your attention is worth literal gold, and if you're reliant on your phone for example, for silly videos at your disposal, you become a walking, talking cash printer, because let's be honest, those businessmen and corporations see you as nothing more. If you haven't noticed, all of this is caused or is related to capitalism, or corporatism, whatever you'd like to call it. It is the root cause of our obsession with addiction. Our reliance on coffee to get up in the morning, our reliance on antidepressants to keep ourselves alive and working. We rely on all of these outside stimuli and factors because our world has become so unlivable for a regular person. We use these vices not to just get through our terrible world, but also to escape from it as well. This is not what we were meant to do. Working 9 to 5 every day for most of your life isn't natural or desirable. The deeper cause for all of our addictions is a lack of belief in the feeling that we live in a terrible world. Escapism. It's gotten so bad that even healthy coping mechanisms are starting to get corrupted now. A lot of people like to exercise to deal with the stress of life, but they just end up exercising to their detriment and feeding into their body dysmorphia. Extreme eating habits and taking steroids that balloon your muscles and shorten your lifespan by 30 years. Let's be honest here, our future is more on the bleak side. There's not much to look forward to, and you're not going to be buying a house or starting a family anytime soon in this economy. Unless you want to earn the big bucks at Lockheed Martin and develop AI integrated ballistic missile systems for safety, of course. So you start looking into things that distract you, whether it's something positive like exercise, reading and music, to something hazardous to your health, like Zen, no sleep gaming, and the old Goon Lagoon. It ends with the same story that you need bigger and bigger dopamine hits to cope with the fact that the brain will slowly lessen the level of dopamine you get from your vice, and your addiction will become your life. I know so many people that advocate for getting addicted to good things like diet and exercise, and it's an amazing start, and I even support it. But these distractions do not solve the deeper issues. I'm talking from personal experience here. You know how I felt when I reached the body goals I set for myself? Empty. It doesn't take away the sadness, it just makes you look another way. And I have to say, it's definitely better than getting addicted to something destructive. But to achieve true happiness again, true content with my own life, I need to focus on the root cause of my issues. Sure, the internet might have given you body dysmorphia, so you work on your physical appearance every day. But do you do this for yourself, or to feel loved? To feel like girls will like you better, or that you don't want to be seen as weak? The reasons are very personal for why we get addicted to certain things, so I'll let you figure it out on your own. But you need to think about it, because no matter how painful thinking about it might seem, you will be able to slowly start on a solution. And speaking of pain, most addictions revolve around avoiding pain, and general escapism of course. Once again, gaming is infamous for the level of escape it can provide you. But we have too many ways to escape from reality to count. Our phones might as well be extensions of our body at this point, so we can always retreat into the digital world. But at what point is the running more painful than confronting the pain? I know that life is extremely painful, everyone knows, but sometimes addressing our core issues is the only way to move forward in life. Are you never gonna have a relationship because your previous one was so terrible? Do you never want to talk to people again? Do you just want to be left in your comfort zone? It's fine to live in your comfort zone, everyone does it, but life happens outside of your comfort zone, so I would suggest you give it a try. But before you can do that, you need to get rid of your personal vices that are keeping you in your comfort bubble, and I'm gonna tell you how you can break some of your addiction cycles. Okay, so humans are creatures of habit, but the amazing thing is, you can actually control what your habits are through incremental changes in your day-to-day life. The fact that there are people out there who have managed to overcome their addictions proves that it's possible, even if it doesn't seem like it sometimes. So humans actually have the mind-boggling ability to go against their natural urges and instincts. And if you ever try to break a bad habit or get rid of an addiction, you know how difficult it is to keep fighting against it. But the very action of being able to fight against it implies that you have some sort of will within you. And that will has the freedom to follow your superego instead of your id. It takes around 21 days to make a new habit. Sometimes more, and sometimes less, depending on you being neurodivergent. But to break an unhealthy habit is a lot more difficult. First, we need to understand that even if we have willpower, it's actually a limited resource. Throughout the day, your brain starts off with an undisclosed amount of willpower, and you have to spend it on the right things to achieve your goals. That's why simply fighting the addiction through willpower isn't enough, because you'll eventually just run out and relapse. You have to fundamentally change your life in such a way where you don't even need to fight it anymore, because you don't get these urges, and when you do, they're manageable. Usually, any form of addiction weakens our willpower, so you have to make it stronger again. There is a very specific exercise you have to do, and that is going against your urges. Well, duh, you might think, but the amazing thing is, we can start off small. Let's say you're really craving some fries right now, that have been double fried. Acknowledge the craving, and tell yourself, even though I want these fries, I'm not going to get them because I said so. If that's already too much for you, you can just not eat your favorite comfort food for a week, or something else. The most important thing is that you have to find something that gives you an urge to indulge in it, and you have to actively deny these urges for as long as possible. There will be setbacks, and there will be times where your will is so weak you can't deny any of your urges on that day, and that's fine, as long as you acknowledge what you were doing. Like, hey, I'm going to watch my favorite TV show for 2 hours now. Awareness is also key here. Most addictions rely on you being somewhat dismissive of what's happening, so if you can catch yourself drifting off into your habits early, you can deny the urge entirely. To make your will even stronger, you have to do one thing you hate doing for a set amount of time in a day. This creates new pathways in your brain that enable you to do difficult tasks with less effort, because our brains are actually amazing. It's like literally walking through a patch of grass every time until the grass flattens over time, creating a path. So to strengthen your will, you will need to do something you dislike and deny yourself of easy pleasures intentionally. Remember, you are in control. If you tell yourself no, your body must obey you. If you are struggling really hard with keeping your hands off of your own phone, you can also get yourself an accountability buddy that will take your phone away from you. Now you have to confront your friend as well when you want to indulge in your addiction, and this will theoretically make you more shameful of your actions. I mean, you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of your own friend and ask them with a defeated look on your face to give you your phone back, to watch short-form videos. I've mentioned awareness before, but it is absolutely critical, because an addiction can make you forget things. For example, how do you feel after doom scrolling for 46 hours? Terrible, right? Empty. Remember that feeling. Use it. When you're about to do it again, being able to acknowledge what you were doing will give you the ability to talk yourself out of it. So it's like, okay, I have to write this text message, but maybe I can check Insta really quick. Wait, I know where this is going. I've been here before, and I don't want to feel that terrible again for wasting so much of my time. I'm now going to put my phone far away from me and do something else. This is another important step. You can't just abandon the addiction and replace it with nothing. You'd just be miserable and go right back to your phone again. Replace it with hobbies and things you like to do. Maybe even try to socialize and make new friends so that you'll be able to do things with them instead. If you don't have any hobbies, then spend your time away from your phone to find out what you really like. You have to get out of your comfort zone at all costs. It is a huge part of the addiction. So if you do something uncomfortable every day, like greeting a stranger on the street, you will get more comfortable in the discomfort, and this will make it easier to leave your addiction. Remember, you will most likely relapse and indulge in your addiction occasionally, but as long as you acknowledge what you did and analyze how you ended up in this position, it will be easier to avoid the mistake the next time it's about to happen. Instead of distraction, take action. I think escaping into this virtual reality we've created for ourselves, regardless if it was because of evil tech companies or supply and demand, technological addiction will leave us feeling empty and much worse than we were off before. I know this because I'm just as addicted as everyone else, and I don't think it's worth it. I'd much rather live in a flawed real world with the hopes of finding my true passion in life, and just living life to the fullest, instead of sitting alone in my room all day, rotting away until my life is finally gone. But on a bright note, thank you so much for watching this video to the very end. It genuinely does mean a lot to me. Like and subscribe if you like what you saw, watch more of my videos, and bye bye.